This is Quantum Flow Radio, organizing thought particles into a flow of collective consciousness.
Here we are.
And we're back.
And it's so good to see you again.
Thank you.
How you feeling?
You know, each day is a challenge, but also wonderful. It's like a little present.
I see you a little bit more mellow than you usually are.
That's okay.
Yeah, I need some of that too. So I'm just going to follow along and be mellow too.
Could be mellow, melancholy.
Yeah.
Something with an M.
Yeah.
I might even feel like a marshmallow.
Well, let's jump in and see where this thing takes us. It's kind of like we've decided that we're just going to have a little stream of consciousness here.
We always have a topic. We're going to do something different. We're going to just freeform it.
Yeah.
Stream of consciousness.
Topicless.
Topicless.
Yeah, you know, we started by mentioning, or at least I started by mentioning, being melancholy and all that stuff. Maybe we should just throw out a couple of concepts.
Life.
Emotions and feelings of life.
What's life about?
Yeah, and we know that life, as we put it, it's funny. I always, whenever I'm doing my blog or writing anything, and I mention the word life, I always capitalize the word, and I do that because I know that it's not really my life. It's just life, and I'm experiencing it. So the same life that is sustaining me is the same life that's sustaining you and everyone else. So I really do see life as an animator.
What if you capitalize every word you write?
You could do that too. Yeah, because it's all part of life, right?
I guess so.
So in this thing called life, we have all of these experiences, and I think that a lot of times we make the mistake of owning the experience rather than understanding that we are the observer of that experience.
It's hard to separate yourself sometimes from the reality.
Yeah,
reality.
It is, until you sit down and talk to yourself. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, who am I talking to? What am I talking to?
Sometimes talking to yourself can be beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes talking to yourself can put you into a hole, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because your mind can wander. All your thoughts, they swirl. It gets difficult at times because...
you never know what you're going to pull out of the water. You really don't. It's this stream of consciousness. And if you're fishing, you don't really know what's going to hit the hook.
Yeah. But you hope you catch a fish.
Yeah. And then what do you
Instead
do
of a
with
bucket.
it? Yeah. And then what do you do with it?
Or an old tire.
Yeah, an old tire. God, who knows what's underneath our waters here.
Yeah.
But, as far as what you were saying with this this whole experience and being that when we talk to ourselves, sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But really, it's our perspective that we place on it that makes it good or bad.
Yeah. Do we really sign up for this stuff?
That's a great question. Can I do this? So people will say, well, you signed up for this. And I've heard that through my journey for, decades. And I finally realized one day what that means to me personally. It isn't that I signed up to come into this life experience, into this incarnation as who I am this time around, and signed up for, a miserable suffering life of cancer and pain.
No.
But what I did sign up for is anything that life throws at me. Yeah. And that's how I look at it.
Which could be that. But
could be that, but it may not be that. Mm-hmm. But, we all signed up to be here.
Where does one find the strength to go through that?
It's an internal strength that has to be nurtured,
Mm-hmm.
It has to be understood, and it has to be personal.
Do you think past experiences help us through future experiences?
Only in reference.
Only in reference.
Only in
because
reference.
What I've noticed, you can't control the emotion of it too much.
It's difficult.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because you say, well, I've been through something like this before, or, this is familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of check yourself. It's not easy.
No.
But you have to be aware of yourself, so to speak, when you go through this.
Yeah, and we look back. I say look back in reference. Too many times we find ourselves looking back and just basically replaying the tape, reliving it again, and because it's familiar. The body has its own mind, in essence. Okay, let's say perhaps the unconscious mind,
Sure.
and it's 95% of what's going on. Our conscious mind is about 5%.
Yeah.
So the rest of these things are programs and recordings of past events. And when we enter a new experience, that part of us that's more powerful than our conscious awareness just says, "Oh, I know what to do here." And it goes back and it plays the tape, and then we find ourselves, in that same cycle again, over and over and over again until we find a new way to approach that experience. It happens a lot in relationships. Maybe, Karen dated Bob, and Bob was not a very nice man, and was abusive and just not something that she wanted to be with anymore. So then that relationship ends, and now Karen is dating Mike. Well, she's going to bring into the new Mike relationship all the Bob baggage.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's a huge mistake that we all make. It needs to be treated as a brand new experience without any of that reference to the past and to what happened in that relationship with Bob.
Things change.
Yeah, they do, and the collective consciousness of all of us either allows or disallows.
Do you think that consciousness is getting better or more judgmental?
I think that we have seen an awakening of people to a higher level of consciousness, to a higher level of awareness. Only that we also have this massive amount of social media. And perhaps those people that have become more enlightened or more loving or whatever have just said, you know what, I can't do that anymore. And they're just not involved in it anymore. So what you find on there are the ones that are not.
Yeah.
So you see the arguing, you see the name calling, you see the division and the separation and all the darkness, and you think that's the new norm. But I don't believe it is. I think it's a slice of the pie. And perhaps a large slice of the pie, but I don't think it's all there is.
Are we setting the bar too high? And let me explain myself.
Mm-hmm.
Are we getting to a point where everything needs to be so in line that it's lost its lust of life, so to speak? It's almost as if we've overanalyzed, and sometimes we just have to let it go.
Yeah, I personally overanalyze a lot of things. You know that.
Well,
me.
yeah, and
I catch myself sometimes.
Sure.
Sometimes I don't.
Well, we would call ourselves, pseudo philosophers, modern philosophers of the times. We talk about everything,
Right.
Try to relate it back to who we are, the esoteric, true meaning of why we're here, what life is about.
Right.
So, hey, all I can do today is ask these questions because for some reason I'm supposed to be asking them.
Yeah. And I believe
as you can
that,
see, I do less talking because today I'm full of questions as opposed to, the chatterbox I usually am.
that's awesome because I'll have questions too, and we can trade places along the way. With the questions, I've always been one, also in my entire life, to ask questions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the frustrating part about that is I rarely got the answers. So that began my journey decades ago.
Bingo.
To seek the answers.
Most people don't.
Yeah.
So where is it?
It's
I
within.
I guess it's within.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hiding.
Only you can do it.
Yeah.
Isn't that a lot of pressure?
It is a lot of pressure, but it's if something was easy, then there would be no reward. There would be no
There's levels of
difficulty.
or easiness. I was gonna paint the optimistic picture.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I agree with you.
What is an easy life? I mean, what's easy? I mean, it would be nice, a nice life would be one that's free of conflict,
Pain, suffering,
sadness.
all the negative emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One that is full of life and love.
Yeah.
It sounds so utterly cliche, but after you go through many years here on Earth.
Yeah.
That's all there really is,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to two emotions, love and fear. And I would rather be on the L side.
Mhm.
It works better for everyone, you know? But then ego gets involved.
You say that with a smile. That's
yeah,
nice.
Yeah. But then ego gets involved, and then, people get offended. Your feelings get hurt.
Sometimes we set our ego too high or expectations.
Yeah.
And when they don't come, to fruition, we find it difficult. These are the difficulties in life. We want a certain job or success in something.
Yeah.
Or just as simply to be healthy.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's difficult. I mean, there's just so much crap right now.
There is.
And it's kind of like you hear about it. It's kind of permeating. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, because international communication now is rampant.
Yeah.
So, with the internet and cell phones and everything else.
Things were never, ever perfect.
No.
There was never a time where everybody was completely happy and the world was whole, happy. Correct? I mean, there's always...
I think there was, but it hadn't manifest.
Right.
I think, for example, biblically speaking, the Garden of Eden, where everything was perfect,
Yes.
was not a literal place.
Were you there?
No.
Yeah, okay.
No. But in my thinking, okay, which can be
Well,
dangerous.
I didn't say that to be like mean-spirited. I was just like, hey,
Yeah.
were you there?
So in my thinking,
You might have been.
It could have been a literal place, but the lessons learned by it are esoteric to me. In that this Garden of Eden, this paradise, was a perfect place where everything was provided for everyone.
So that's kind of like where I'm going. Will there be a time that we can all
Return to paradise.
Yeah, return. Yeah,
That'd
come
be
back.
It'd be a great
As
movie title.
Return to paradise.
Yeah.
Be a great title for anything.
Yeah.
Book,
Sure.
movie, sure, song,
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I'm making
even a
note.
boat.
Yeah, make a note. Write that down. But I do believe that there will be a return to paradise.
Okay.
Ultimately, very long time out.
Why do we have to wait so long?
Because
Don't you want to find that for you in this lifetime too?
I do, but I'll never find that for me unless everyone has it. Because there is no other. We all have to come together. You see, if everything worked out of love and compassion and understanding and gratefulness and all of these things, these positive emotions, then guess what? We wouldn't need a military. We wouldn't need police. We wouldn't need lawyers. We wouldn't need judges. We wouldn't need any of these
Everyone
things.
would be self-governing,
Yeah.
and we would, and
be
that's
living in harmony
right.
in paradise.
That's true.
Yeah. So
And a time, what would we do with our time if we did live in paradise?
well, I'd play a lot more drums.
The
The neighbors may not like it,
No,
but
no.
I'd play a lot more
But
drums.
see, in paradise, you wouldn't worry about your neighbors because they would love the drums, or you wouldn't have neighbors, or
Yeah.
the neighbors would be,
yeah,
the guitar player and the bass player.
right. We'd have this amazing band,
Yeah.
and then we would sit around and talk about philosophy and
Right.
And
You call the
wonderful
band
things.
Surfing on Paradise, or
Surfing on Paradise.
Surfing on Paradise, as opposed to
Awesome. There was a I saw a thing not too long ago. Greg Braden, who I love Greg Braden, but he talked about some of his journeys throughout the world, and he found many people that were living to a very old age, as 120 years old, 110 years old, and sometimes greater, and asked them all what was the key to their longevity, and they all said that it was because they were needed. Their family needed them. They had a purpose. They were tied into a community, and there was the love and the need of them to be there.
But a long life doesn't necessarily mean a happy life. And I think a happy, healthy life ultimately is more important, because you could say, hey, you could live till 100.
Especially
Guaranteed.
Yeah, especially in
But
today's
what are
medical
those?
world.
Yeah, but what are the last, couple decades of that lifetime going to be like?
Yeah.
Are you going to be infirmed or? So my utopia would be simplicity, something uncomplicated.
Yeah.
I've come to this conclusion that life, for most people in America,
Yeah.
as we live today,
In the West.
is too much.
I think we've surpassed too much.
I think we've blown
It's
by
gone
it
beyond excessive.
from what I see as a child. Listen, I'm not saying times in the past were better. Well, maybe I am.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there was a time, and luckily we got to experience this.
Mm-hmm.
That was more simple.
Yeah.
It was easier to achieve joy and happiness. I go through watching program after program, and I mean that literally. And they have all these, reality stations, and all these people. This is not reality TV. This is not really who they are. Yeah, putting on a show.
Yeah.
But none of them, even the reality of it, they're not happy.
No.
The guy that's fixing the house up has problems.
Sure.
You
think it's easy because he's going to spend 90 days on that flip and put 80 grand in his pocket, but boy, he just took off about 5 years of his life in the process.
Yeah, and that's just one example.
Yeah.
And most of the contestant shows, what do you have? You have one winner and everybody else loses.
Right.
So, hey, listen, that's kind of a
you get the consolation prize when you leave.
Which is what? A free meal?
Right.
The one that you just cooked on the show?
yeah, peanuts for life or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that the real trick is to get out of this life with the trophy and not the consolation prize.
And then what do they give you when you win these shows?
Yeah.
Fame, fortune, money?
Yeah.
Again, it's an illusion of happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness, again, I still think that it's more in a simple packaged message, something that think about like what makes you happy, and of course, thinking that you're going to be living in a mansion and people want your autograph, that might be a form of a way of happiness.
Yeah.
But that could actually be more of a distraction from truly what we're meant to do and what we're here for.
And you may even get bored by that. I mean, you and I see
Well, you have to
every day.
Yeah.
Among the Hollywood elite and the music superstars that become mega millionaires, and they end up either dead at a young age,
addicted,
miserable,
divorced, a lot of D's.
Yeah, a lot of D's.
Dead,
tons of
drugs.
D's. Yeah, exactly. It's the D syndrome.
And not in a good way.
No, and you think to yourself, oh my God, he has everything. How could that possibly happen? Well, because he didn't have everything.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is when you see people, you have no idea what they're going through.
Right.
We all put a facade on. The facade is one of, how you doing?
Yeah.
Doing good. Kind of like what we do at the beginning of our show.
Right.
They have no clue what I just went through or what you just went through or what we're going to go through.
Right.
I want to go through joy and happiness. That's really where I want to be. And more importantly, I want to spread that to the people around me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult. You're not completely in control of these people around you. You're barely in control of yourself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be in better control of myself so that way I can be there for the people around me that I care about. Hopefully they'll reciprocate in some form.
You mentioned joy and happiness. Ancient scripture says when describing the kingdom of heaven, what is the kingdom of heaven? And the answer was love, peace, and joy.
It's pretty simple.
So if you have love, peace, and joy, you are in the state of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the kingdom, you see. And I learned from one of my mentors, we both have many, they described a slight difference between happiness and joy. Happiness can come from the outside, from without. Joy can only come from within.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when we have happy hour, people go to a bar for an hour and get happy, and then after the hour's over, they go right back to their regular life again.
Yeah.
They may not stay happy, but if you have
And
joy,
they drink some beer, which is kind of a depressant, and then they go
Yeah.
home thinking maybe, hey, they put themselves in a slightly altered state
Right.
of happiness.
sure,
But ultimately, hey, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
You know, that's why they call them bars.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
So, because you're kind of prisonered in there.
But if you have joy within your heart before you get to happy hour,
There you go.
then you're going to have joy in your heart after you leave.
And then you're going to have joy and happiness.
Right.
Yeah. How do you put it in there? It's not something you just turn off or on like a light switch.
Personally, I think you have to sort of know that it's in there because we have everything we ever need. You have to find a way to ignite it, to bring it to the forefront.
Doing things you enjoy.
Doing things you enjoy, and actually taking a few moments each day to actually have the feeling of joy. Even if you're not in a joyful place, have that feeling as if you were already joyful.
We may not take that as serious as we should about finding it.
Tell me more.
If I knew more, I would tell you.
Yeah.
Maybe I do know.
Yeah, well, I think you do. I think I do. We just have to find that. You know,
Yeah.
it's a hide and seek thing. It's that
Well,
pearl
doing-
of great price.
Doing things you enjoy that vibrationally bring you to your happy place.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to go.
I agree with that.
Sometimes it's as simple as maybe watching an old movie that might give you joy, building something,
Mhm.
creating something
A
always
hobby.
brings joy. Hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sharing time with other people, doing things.
Mhm.
It sounds also
And sometimes not doing things.
But what it comes down to is doing the things you want to do as opposed to doing things we don't want to do. So we find ourselves, how often during the day are you tasked with doing things that you're just, it's almost like folding the sheets, so to speak. It's all the
Mechanical.
mundane life things that you have to do. Like,
Mechanical.
hey, we can have a beach week, and that's nice. That takes you away for a while. Maybe recharges your battery.
Yep. But then you go home again.
And you go home again.
Yeah.
And then it all kind of starts again.
Yeah.
So who are these charmed people that have no worries, no money, no concerns in life? They're just happy. You really want to kind of maybe be there. So how
And genuinely there.
Yeah.
Not just temporarily, but genuinely there. You mentioned the beach and Beach Week. I remember many years ago I was in Juno Beach, Florida, and there was a family there on the beach. It wasn't a very busy beach, and there was a family there, and they had a son who was sitting on the edge of the beach where the water would come in, and each time the wave would come in, he would let out this incredible shrill of excitement. You know what I mean?
how old was he?
He was probably 12 or 14, and you could tell that he was challenged.
Okay.
Okay, he had some issues, but it didn't matter. I watched this kid, and every time that next wave would come in, he would just shrill with absolute 100% heartfelt excitement. It was the most exciting thing that he'd ever experienced in his life. And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't think I could ever find that much heartfelt excitement in my life as this
Yeah.
kid is feeling right now, getting hit by a wave on the beach.
Right.
And it really did inspire me. It was
Well, we
like,
do.
Wow.
We find strength and energy in seeing that.
Yeah.
Because it's huge.
It's massive.
That's it. If you want to put your finger on the pulse of life, it's right there in that moment.
He was in that now present moment. There were no
All
worries,
his
no
concerns,
concerns.
disability,
Gone.
it's
Gone.
Yeah.
Just absolute
freedom.
joy and freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Complete freedom.
Yep. And,
And
not
not-
looking at his watch going, oh, geez, I got to be at work tomorrow, or, this vacation's going to end in 3 days.
Well, he was
No.
12. Let's hope a 12-year-old would have this kind of joy.
Yeah, but he was
Nothing's-
in it.
Nothing's sadder than seeing a child suffer.
Right.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Those of unfortunately the people that have had to experience that, it's tough. It's in fact it's almost as tough as if you're going through it. You see that because well, at least a conscious parent. There's I've taught drums in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a student. She was blind,
Mm-hmm.
and she was amazing. She is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing, because her handicap, even though she would probably love to see tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
she's just she's happy.
Yeah.
She really is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I've learned many unique lessons from her. The thing that I see, though, she's there to teach us something.
Right.
Maybe get back to where we need to be, because we're in such a rush to conquer tomorrow, that we're forgetting about the joy and the thankfulness that we have for the things we have today.
Yeah. Right now. With me, every time, I've been through some physical stuff.
Yeah, I know you have
through the years.
more, and having known you more so than what most people have gone through.
Yeah.
And I applaud you, because it's miraculous. And
Well, it's my greatest teacher, and I look at myself at times, and then there's always someone else that happens by who's in way worse shape,
Yeah.
and their attitude in many cases is just fine, and that's a huge wake up call, because that means that hey, I'm okay with this. You know what I mean? When I spent time in Florida, we would go to theme parks and we would go do the Florida stuff. And so many people, excuse me, that had what we call a disability. And who's to say, really, is it a disability? I mean, who decides that it's a disability? Because they're doing just fine.
yeah, it could
They've-
just be an inconvenience. Or,
Right. They've gotten, I've seen people with, in wheelchairs get on the rides. And
The wheelchair is a ride, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, it could be.
For some.
Yeah. And I've seen that so many times people have overcome so many great hardships. And I think that's the human spirit. I think it has within us is the power to overcome. Also within us is the power to heal. The body that we have, our subconscious mind built this body inside of our mother's womb without us having anything to do with it, you see? And the heart came first before the brain.
Yeah.
So what was going on there? And if it knew how to do that, then clearly the body knows how to heal itself from pretty much everything.
You talk about healing. There is a healing process through going through events. Looking back, I guess time helps these things. As time goes on, the impact of that feeling or that emotion that you might have had, it does dissipate.
Sure.
It doesn't mean that you still don't care or feel, but the wonderful thing that time does, and then we adjust, and then things kind of get to what I would call a new normal.
Yeah.
The new normal may not be like the old normal.
Yeah.
But it does become the new normal.
Right.
And then the old normal, hey,
Yeah, and
maybe you'll get back to the old normal if that's a desired outcome. But we all push our intent forward, hoping,
the body and the
that we
mind are
can-
such a magical creation to me, in that, let's say you have a cold, okay? And then your cold turns worse and you're just miserable, right? You're laying in bed, you're blowing your nose, you're weak, you just feel absolutely horrible, and you're like, "Oh my God, how can this be so miserable?" Blah blah. But then a few days go by,
even a day or two. Yeah. And then
a week goes by.
Yeah.
And after a couple of 3 weeks, you look back on it and you say, boy, I'm glad I'm not sick anymore.
what kind of cold do you have that lasts 3 weeks? But
yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The residual, because maybe you weren't able to eat or whatever,
Right,
but
whatever
you
it
do,
is.
there's a recovery time.
Yeah, but when you look back on it, it's never as bad as it was when you were in it.
Right.
Because when you were in it, you're like, "Oh my God, I'm going to die. I got to get to a hospital." But looking back on it, with just a short period of time that passed, you don't even think about that anymore.
You make a great point, and I think that's a helpful, at least, posture, because knowing, and like I said, time does heal everything. If you have a horrible breakup,
Mm.
everywhere you look, everything you see reminds you of that person.
Right.
A song, a word,
Yeah.
or even just walking down the street and
A
you
scent.
see it, a scent,
A feeling.
a warm day where you go, oh,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And then you also have, I mean, it even works
How
for
do-
cars. You buy a car, and all of a sudden everybody's got the same car you do, And so,
Well, that's not quite the same.
so these familiarities that
I
we
see
have,
what you're saying.
okay,
Yeah.
are sometimes good, sometimes not so good.
Sure.
Okay, but again, are there as teachers? Uh, um, you know, I've never met anyone that I agree with that I've ever learned anything from. You see,
You've said that before,
yeah.
and I kind of agree with that.
Okay, well there goes that.
Yeah. No. But the funny thing is that
Yeah, I learned something from someone who may disagree with me on something.
Yeah.
But we both have to be, if both 3 people, 5 people, whatever it might be, have to be at least open to hearing what the other person has to say, and
Well,
allow
that's
that to play on our hearts, not just on our ego.
that's the growing process. As tough as it is to take yourself from here to here, and think that the second place where you're going to be is a better place, or maybe more enlightened.
Mhm.
And that's the teaching, the lesson, that going from there to here.
Yeah.
And again, getting back to the new normal.
Yeah.
We may adjust a new normal kind of every day. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
There's a constant maybe vibe or normalcy or balance to our life,
Mm-hmm.
but within each day, we have to adjust ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's part of learning and growing, getting to know yourself, knowing how you need to interact and handle particular situations. Some of them are undesirable. Some of them we look forward to.
Yeah.
And we step up and to the occasion.
Sure. And
We
sometimes
rise up.
we don't want that. It's not something we want, but it appears.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to deal with it. And we hope that we have enough knowledge and wisdom to deal with
Do you ever have a day where you go, you're laying there or thinking about the next day and you go, gosh, I just don't want to do that. Tomorrow's going to suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just you're looking at everything you have to do. Most of it may be, it's not fun.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
could be anything.
Yeah.
Hey, it could be just as simple as paying your bills. I mean, who enjoys that? But somehow we wake up and we get through the day.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the one day at a time. I think they teach this in a lot of the self-help, and especially like Alcoholic Anonymous.
Mhm.
A lot of these group therapies and stuff like this, they say one day at a time, because if you start looking 2 or 3 days down the road, hey, tomorrow could change the next day. So
Right.
it could be better. It
Yeah.
may not be, but there's no sense in looking too far down the road, because that's going to get you anxious.
Right.
And that's not living now. No. What do you have right now? Are you okay right now? What do you have? You're doing okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times we try to skip. You know what I mean? Like if you look at a face clock, if people remember what that is, okay.
Right.
But you look at a face clock.
Think grandfather clock. If
Right.
you
So
don't.
think grandfather clock. It's got the numbers on it and the
Right.
round dials, okay, the minute dials and the hourly dials.
Uh-huh.
And one thing that we know by looking at a clock is you can't go from 5 minutes to 10 minutes.
No.
Without going to 6, 7, 8, and 9 first. So a lot of
How
things in
about
life.
5 minutes, 1 second, 2
Right.
seconds.
Right. And
Even the minute jump might be a little bit.
exactly. And a lot of times in life we want to take that jump. We want to go from 5 after to, quarter after.
We always think that some future moment is going to be paradise.
Right.
That we're planning on. Oh wow, you picture it in your mind, maybe you'll still have that, but it may not come quite as you envisioned it because you still have the next day to take care of.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps.
You know, just like with our subconscious mind and our memories, they're basically snapshots.
We never really stop taking baby steps and
Yeah, it's frame by frame, like a movie. You can't,
Build.
edit it. You just have
Well-
to go from one frame to the next frame to the next frame. You
Yeah.
can't skip.
Well, when it's all done, I guess you can edit it then.
Yeah, but then you're out of it.
Yeah,
Film's over.
film's over.
Yeah.
And hopefully you made one heck of a film.
Exactly. And that's what
At
we're
least
trying
something
to do.
maybe you'd be interested in watching yourself.
Yeah, that's something we're trying to
Yeah.
do with this life is like, leave something in the canister behind that somebody's going to want to watch. You know what I mean? I think that
Make it count.
Yeah, I think that every single thing that we do, it's either beneficial for everyone or it's not.
Right. It's just so hard at times to be that strong pillar.
Mhm.
The stable individual that can circumvent anything that's thrown at them.
Yeah.
Because, it's our life is multifaceted. We have a lot to do. And again, it gets back to this busyness. It's almost as if we're not being distracted in a good way enough.
Yeah.
Doing the things that we really, sometimes doing nothing is wonderful time.
Yeah.
If you're always busy doing something, you may not be taking care of things, so to speak. I tend to overthink, as we discussed.
Yeah, me too.
So idle time, sometimes my mind wanders.
Mhm.
But that's therapeutic in one sense, but then I can't get caught up, and get in that horrible cycle of sometimes you feel like you're drowning
Yeah.
in your thoughts. And then I don't know if you've ever had depression.
Yeah, I've done that.
Everyone
Been there, done that.
everyone gets depressed. I mean, that's a normal thing. But then there really is a condition where you bear yourself in there, and having experienced that, and I do sound a little melancholy today for whatever reason I'm going through now.
Mhm.
I just choose to feel like I want to talk about this stuff.
Right.
So maybe I'm maybe I'm using this as therapy.
That's good.
Hey,
I think that if you are, congratulations, because it gives you an opportunity to rise above.
yeah,
And
and
say, okay, there's
you're
something I can do about
You're
this.
probably a lot cheaper than a psychiatrist too.
Oh, well, you haven't seen my bill yet.
Darn, I
So
I
many
knew there
times-
was a catch.
Right. So many times I will go and connect with nature, even though nature is within all of us. I'll go to the lake down the road
Yes.
and just sit on the dock
Mhm.
and just stare.
Because that's a constant.
Yes.
Even though they're maybe, crapping up the water, the air, our food, the fact is that you can still go out in nature.
Yeah.
And it is a constant. Let's hope it's there
Yeah.
for future generations.
Yeah, and I feel the connectivity when I'm there. I feel closer to Mother Earth and nature, and to all of the things the elements that we are all that we all share genetically.
Right.
I think that I do have a gift in that I can.
Well, thank you.
I can,
okay.
Yes, I can quiet the monkey mind.
Mm.
A lot of people can't do that, but I can literally, if I'm going to meditate or if I'm just going to sit still for a little while,
Yeah.
I can stop the thoughts.
Remove yourself. Yeah, and that does take a little discipline
Yeah.
and practice.
Yeah.
Because when you silence the mind,
Mhm.
you want to silence or stop all that thoughts and just kind of really get into like a kind of a lucid, just flowing thought where you're not really introducing anything new and you're
No.
not really thinking of anything specific.
No.
And it's kind of just a pleasant, you're just
Yeah,
there.
I kind of, like we were talking about the beach earlier, I kind of look at it as though I'm sitting on the beach and off in the distance are these boats that just keep going by.
Yeah.
And those are my thoughts. I don't, right?
Yeah.
I don't
And the
judge
waves.
them. I don't say, well, that one's pretty, that one's not. I don't do any of that. I just watch them go by. So that's what I do when I'm trying to meditate or when I'm trying to be in stillness. Whatever thoughts I draw to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't judge them. I don't spend any time on them. I just let them go right by.
Yeah.
And that helps me feel better all the way through.
At that moment, you have to do what you have to do.
It's a cleansing
yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
It really is. It's kind of like taking out the trash.
Well, it's unplugging. Oh,
You put it in a new bag, and all of a sudden it's fresher now.
yeah.
And it works for me. And you know as well as I do, I get a lot of thoughts going on a daily basis.
What you don't want to happen is that trash bag to break on your way, because then that creates more of a mess.
Right. And then you're all about the mess.
And then you got to clean it up.
Yeah.
But I guess the interesting thing about life is if you want to, you clean up the mess.
Yeah.
And you just pick yourself up and you move on.
Yep.
Because as tough as it may be to have to touch, smell, and go through that ugliness, once it's done, you've moved on.
Yeah, and especially
in
if
some
it's
respects,
unavoidable.
Yeah.
Okay, you just dumped a bag of trash on the floor. Okay, well now I could spend an hour griping about it, nagging about it, complaining about it, like I probably would.
The trash
Or
in the
would
trash
just-
bag is a metaphor.
Yeah,
You
well,
understand.
yeah, of course. Or I would just say, you know what, that's what it is. Now let me just deal with it.
Yeah.
See?
I have another observation. I look at people, and I truly believe that there's people that are walking this earth with no conscience. They could care less for anybody else,
I agree with you.
or even the people that they're with.
It's very sad.
Yeah. How do these people lack any type of empathy or care?
No, I just can't grasp that. I really can't. There's a point of just being a mean person or a mean-spirited person, and then just one of having no conscience.
Yeah.
You know.
I believe life is a balancing of this, in that you can be a caring, loving, affectionate person, altruistic, doing everything you can for people.
Yeah.
But again, you can't leave yourself too thin.
Yeah.
And you do need to have safeguards. You do have to have, I wouldn't call them walls, but boundaries. You can't let all of it in, and you can't let all of you out.
Right.
Wow.
Right. See, we talked about the plastic
That's flow.
bag. Yeah, the plastic bag a couple of moments ago.
Yeah.
I went to a seminar a very long time ago, and one of the men that was at the seminar came in to talk to all of us. He says, listen, I want you to close your eyes and imagine a big plastic bag. And then I want you to take everything that's in your life and put it in the plastic bag. Everything, your girlfriend, your house, your wife, your children.
Like the George Clooney movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah? So,
Up in the air.
Is that what it's called?
Well, yeah, he has a backpack. He's like, put all your possessions, everything in your bag.
Yeah.
And feel the weight of it.
Yeah.
Okay. I cut you off. So
no, but I
finish.
have to check that out now.
Well,
so he
great.
says, put it all in there. Everything, your
Yeah.
house, your car, your job, everything that's involved in your life, put it in the bag. And when you're done, raise your hand. So everybody finished and raised their hand. So he says, okay, I have one question for you. Put your hands down. And raise your hand if your answer is yes to this next question. Did anyone make their bag bigger? And not one hand went up.
Wow.
Not one.
Yeah.
See, we all have the same size bag, or a bag that it's the limit of what we can handle.
Right.
And he said the second part of this is the more stuff that you put in your bag, the smaller and insignificant each thing in your bag becomes.
Wow.
So choose what you're going to put in your bag. So a lot of times, even, with my wife, she'll tell me, we got to do this. And I'll go, not, bag's full. I'll tell her bag's full, and she knows what that means.
I usually use the analogy of a plate, and you fill the plate up with food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, you can get to a point where you can't put any more food on.
Right.
Are you going to eat all that?
No.
Does the taste of this food then, taste any better if you have a ton of it?
Yeah.
And then how much can you eat? How much can you digest?
Right.
So sometimes we need to, we literally have to treat our life and our plate and even our bag kind of like we're on a diet, and only put in the essential things.
Right. Don't be a glutton.
And focus on that.
Gluttony is bad
Well,
at times.
it's nice to be popular and
Yeah.
I want everything.
Yeah.
That may not be your calling, though.
No.
So.
And for me, and I know this sounds boastful, maybe, but
Braggadocious.
of course, but perhaps it was braggadocious I was looking for. I would like to have just a ton of money so that I can do stuff for other people.
Right.
I know it sounds like I'm a
No,
contestant
no.
in the Miss America contest, but I really do believe that if I did have a ton
solve
of
world
money,
hunger.
yeah, I would be able to do that, but not just, give the man a fish and feed him for a day, but teach the man to fish and feed him for the rest of his life, you see.
Yep.
So, paying somebody's mortgage this month, okay, that's a nice gesture, but how are they going to pay for it next month, you know? So you have to help them learn how to do that, I think that a lot of us are so caught up in our day-to-day lives that we're really not thinking about other people at all. And that's sad.
Until something happens, and then you
Something
have to
big.
and then you have to think about them.
It's just life. I love how Alan Watts put it. He said, imagine being all that is, and everything's always perfect and wonderful and always exciting. After a while, you get a little bored. So, you start to throw something in the works there.
Some of us out there might want to try that just for a little while.
Yeah, but we're
might be
talking
nice.
about eternity here.
No.
So you create something as a diversion, and then you feel that's pretty cool, and then you go on and on and on, and eventually you get to a button that says surprise.
Well, it's no surprise that we both subscribe to the thoughts that our soul is forever.
Yeah.
And that we've incarnated here into this beautiful body here to have this wonderful earthly experience.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we just have to understand, even though things happen, we have to adjust and kind of just go on, because life does go on.
Right.
So all these different things, good or bad, you can't ride too high or want to ride too low.
Yeah.
And so, especially people that are empathetic, or what I would call light workers, people that genuinely understand other people's condition.
Mm-hmm. And not just understand it, but feel it.
And therein lies where we come full circle,
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Is emotion and feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey.
It's interesting. I there was a, if you look back among the ancients and you look at the chakras within the body, there's seven human chakras.
7 within and 5 outside.
Right.
Total of 12.
Right. So now we're at looking at things from a
Kabbalist.
Yes.
Yeah.
So outside of the Kabbalistic way of looking at it, if you're just going to stay with the inside chakras, then you have the lower root chakras, then you have your crown chakra and your third eye and your throat, which is the arth. And anyway, long story short, the ancients, even when you read, like, for example, in the Gospel of Thomas, it says when the two become one, then you will have total harmony. So the two sections that the ancients talked about were the higher chakras and the lower chakras, and they omitted the heart chakra, and they applied emotions to the lower base chakras, and then they applied thought to the higher chakras, but the heart was where the feelings were.
Yeah.
So when you align the thoughts and the emotions, you get the feelings.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so critical that we understand our feelings. And going back to what I said, a little bit earlier, people do affirmations, they do things, on a daily basis. But what helps is, what is the catalyst of manifesting this is feeling it now. Don't wait till you got it, but actually feel it now. We have that ability. We have that gift. So start feeling it,
Right.
And the same thing with blessing. Blessing is to speak highly of something.
Yeah.
So if somebody's aggravating you, bless them.
Yeah.
Just bless them.
And thank them.
Yeah, and thank them. Be be grateful, because they're here as a teacher for you.
The you had mentioned, we've talked about, and you've mentioned about how, the now moment is now, although we can look back on past events, and even though we know that if everything is kind of now, because when we conjure up those memories, we feel them now.
Yeah.
The one observation that I have is the feeling or emotion of past events, when I conjure them up and even consider them now, it's still slightly different.
Yeah.
It's almost as if it's not the impact of that feeling or that emotion is not as heavy. Though when I look to the future, that still kind of can weigh heavy because I don't know what to expect.
It's the unexpected.
Yeah, it's the unexpected.
And that's what a lot of people fear. But we fear the unexpected.
So I have to balance myself now.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I can't
no crystal ball. Yeah. We actually create the future with every nanosecond.
Sure.
So
well, I used to really believe you could manifest that, but then curveballs come at you. So I guess you have to dodge these.
Yeah, it's like that meme you see that pops up every now and then. It says, the way I pictured life, and it's like a straight line, and from A to Z.
Right.
And then it shows you, the way life actually is.
Yeah.
And there's a hill, and there's a dip, and then there's a water puddle, and then you fall off your bike, and then that's the way life, really is.
Yes.
It presents itself.
Yeah.
And I think that much of that is
it's like a Pollock painting.
Right. And the universe is an amazing place in that there is a rhyme and reason to it all. There's also karma.
And we may not it may not be evidently clear right now.
Right.
Let's hope that at some moment when we come to full understanding of why and what we went through,
then perhaps we'll receive clarity.
Yeah.
We'll have that aha moment.
Right.
I
would just like to end on, hey, just find joy and happiness anywhere you can.
And everywhere you can.
Of course, we want to do it legally.
And spread it.
And spread it. But hug those around you right now. If they're close by, tell them you love them. Tell them you care for them and kiss them. Because you never know. But everybody will be okay in the end, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We were designed that way. When you talked earlier about getting sick or whatever, and then you said as time passes, we heal. And is the time passing the healer, or is the healing already done and the time has to pass to get to it?
Yeah, that's where we're getting at.
Yeah.
At least on that.
Yeah.
And if there is a conclusion to this, because this is just stream of consciousness, this was just two guys getting together on a weekday to talk about whatever.
In fact, that might be the title of our show this week.
Whatever.
Whatevs.
I like that.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate your time, man.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Quantum Flow Radio. Email us online at quantumflowradio@gmail.com.